Hello and welcome to BritBuzz. Today, we're diving into the fascinating history of the French Colonial Empire, an empire that once spanned continents and left a lasting mark on the world we know today. So, what exactly was the French Colonial Empire? It was a vast collection of territories controlled by France, stretching from North America to Africa, Southeast Asia, and beyond. At its peak, it was one of the largest empires in history, shaping politics, culture, and economies across the globe. But why does this matter? Understanding the French colonial empire gives us a window into how modern nations, borders, and cultures were formed. It's a story of exploration, ambition, resistance, and change, a story that still resonates today. Beginnings of expansion. France's journey as a colonial power began in the 16th century during the Age of Exploration, a time when European nations were racing to discover new lands, routes, and resources. Initially, French explorers set their sights on North America. In 1534, Jacques Cartier sailed up the St. Lawrence River and claimed what is now Canada for France, laying the foundation for the colony of New France. Not long after, French interests expanded to the Caribbean, where colonies like Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti, were established. These regions became vital for the French economy due to their fertile lands and potential for growing lucrative crops like sugar and tobacco. France's early exploration efforts were driven by a desire not only to claim new lands but also to secure strategic trade routes and build a global presence. These first colonies marked the beginning of what would become a sprawling empire spanning multiple continents. Motivations for expansion. But what motivated France to embark on this global endeavor? There were three main driving forces. Economic reasons. France saw the colonies as a source of immense wealth. Territories like the Caribbean islands produced highly valuable commodities such as sugar, coffee, and spices. These products were in high demand in Europe and became essential to the French economy. Additionally, colonies provided new markets for French goods, creating a cycle of trade that enriched the empire. Political competition. The 16th and 17th centuries were a time of fierce rivalry among European powers like Britain, Spain, and Portugal. Each nation wanted to expand its influence and claim as much land as possible. For France, establishing colonies was a way to compete with these powers, both economically and strategically. By controlling overseas territories, France could assert itself as a global superpower. Religious motivations. Religion played a significant role in colonial expansion. France was deeply influenced by Catholicism and saw colonization as an opportunity to spread Christianity. French missionaries traveled alongside explorers to convert indigenous populations, viewing it as both a moral duty and a way to strengthen France's cultural influence abroad. 18th and 19th centuries. The empire's peak. The 18th and 19th centuries marked the height of the French colonial empire. By this time, France had expanded its reach far beyond its early colonies in North America and the Caribbean. The empire now included vast territories in Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific, making France a dominant global power. In Africa, France began colonizing parts of West and North Africa, including present-day Senegal, Algeria, and Ivory Coast. By the late 19th century, the French presence extended deeper into the continent, forming the foundation of what would later be known as French West Africa. In Southeast Asia, France established a stronghold in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, collectively known as French Indochina. These territories became vital for their resources and strategic location. The Pacific region also saw French expansion, with territories like New Caledonia and French Polynesia becoming part of the empire. These acquisitions underscored France's ambition to have a global presence that rivaled other colonial powers like Britain. Economic and cultural influence. Economic importance. The colonies were economic engines for France. They supplied raw materials such as sugar, coffee, rubber, and minerals that were crucial for French industry. For example, the plantations in the Caribbean produced sugar that was exported to Europe, while African colonies provided valuable resources like palm oil and gold. In addition to resource extraction, colonies also became key markets for French goods. This economic medulla where colonies provided raw materials and purchased manufactured products from the colonizer was a cornerstone of the empire's wealth. Cultural exchanges. France used its colonies as platforms to spread its language, culture, and ideals. French became the official language in many territories, and French educational systems were introduced to teach local populations about French history, literature, and values. At the same time, France was influenced by its colonies. The introduction of exotic goods, foods, and cultural practices from the colonies enriched French society. The French fascination with foreign cultures influenced art, cuisine, and even fashion back home. The 18th and 19th centuries were truly the golden age of the French colonial empire. It was a time when France's global reach and influence were at their peak, shaping not only the economies of the colonies but also their cultures. However, this dominance came at a cost, often involving exploitation and conflict issues that would eventually contribute to the empire's decline. Internal struggles. As the French colonial empire expanded, it wasn't without controversy back in France. Political debates emerged over the ethics and practicality of maintaining such a vast empire. Critics argued that colonization was morally wrong, highlighting the exploitation of indigenous peoples and the violence often used to suppress resistance. Others questioned whether the financial costs of managing far-flung colonies outweighed the economic benefits they brought. Some in France believed that the resources spent on military campaigns and colonial administration could have been better used to address issues at home. Meanwhile, pro-colonial advocates defended the empire as essential for France's global prestige and economic strength, creating deep divisions in French society. Colonial resistance in the colonies. Resistance to French rule was widespread and often intense. Uprisings and independence movements challenged France's control, showcasing the determination of colonized people to reclaim their sovereignty. Algeria, perhaps the most well-known example of resistance, the Algerian War of Independence, 1954–1962, was a bloody conflict that led to Algeria gaining its freedom. The war highlighted the brutality of colonial rule, with both sides suffering immense casualties. Vietnam, in French Indochina, resistance took the form of nationalist movements. Leaders like Ho Chi Minh fought against French control, leading to the First Indochina War, 1946–1954. This ultimately resulted in the division of Vietnam and set the stage for further conflicts. Haiti, in the late 18th century, the Haitian Revolution became a landmark in global history. Enslaved Africans, led by figures like Toussaint Louverture, successfully overthrew French rule, establishing Haiti as the first independent black republic and a symbol of anti-colonial resistance. The decline of the empire. The decline of the French colonial empire began in the mid-20th century, particularly after World War II. The war left France weakened economically and militarily, making it increasingly difficult to maintain control over its colonies. At the same time, nationalist movements around the world gained momentum, demanding freedom from colonial rule. Post-World War II decolonization movements. In the aftermath of the war, many colonies saw the opportunity to assert their independence. France faced a series of decolonization struggles. In Indochina, the First Indochina War, 1946–1954, ended with the Geneva Accords, which divided Vietnam and marked the start of France's withdrawal from Southeast Asia. In Algeria, a brutal war of independence raged from 1954 to 1962. The conflict highlighted the untenable nature of colonialism, with Algeria eventually gaining independence. Many African nations, including Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Mali, gained independence peacefully during the 1960s as part of a broader wave of decolonization. Loss of major territories. As colonies gained independence, the French Empire gradually dissolved. By the late 20th century, most of its territories had either achieved sovereignty or transitioned to overseas departments, like French Guiana and Martinique, which remain part of France today. Legacy of the empire. Although the French colonial empire officially ended, its influence persists in profound ways across the world. Cultural and linguistic impact. French remains an official or widely spoken language in many former colonies, particularly in Africa. The Francophonie, a global organization of French-speaking countries who continues to promote French culture and cooperation among member states. Additionally, French cuisine, fashion, and art have left lasting marks on the cultures of former colonies. Economic influence. France maintains strong economic ties with its former colonies, often referred to as France-Section Afrique. While these relationships are framed as partnerships, critics argue that they perpetuate economic dependence and inequality. Resources from former colonies still play a vital role in France's economy, creating a complex and often controversial legacy. To wrap up, let's take a moment to recap the story of the French Colonial Empire, a story of ambition, power, and transformation. We explored how France's colonial ambitions began with exploration in the 16th century, driven by economic, political, and religious motivations. Then came the empire's golden age in the 18th and 19th centuries, when French influence stretched across Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. However, this dominance wasn't without its struggles. Resistance from within the colonies, internal debates in France, and competition with other global powers all contributed to the empire's eventual decline. Finally, the post-World War II era saw decolonization movements that led to the independence of most French colonies, marking the end of an era. But why does all of this matter today? The French colonial empire left an indelible mark on the world. Its influence can still be seen in the languages we speak, the borders of nations, and the cultural connections that tie us together. At the same time, understanding this history helps us confront the lingering effects of colonialism, including inequality and exploitation, and how they shape global relationships today. The French colonial empire isn't just a chapter in history, it's a lens through which we can better understand the present and, perhaps, create a fairer future. Thank you for watching BritBuzz. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging stories from history and beyond. See you in the next video.